Greetings, YouTube. I'm going to talk about Magic of Incarnum. This is not a review of the book. This is just some thoughts I've had because I've been rereading it in the past week or so. When I read the book originally, I was captivated by it. I thought, hey, this is a really cool idea. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I never actually did anything with it, but I thought it was a really cool idea. And I didn't look at it again until now. And I realized that I still agree that it's a really cool idea, but I wasn't thrilled with the mechanics and the way it was implemented. But I still think it's a really cool idea. And it took until now that I realized what I liked about it. Now, as a quick overview, the idea being of this book that a character can take in the souls of those that have been before him, the souls of the world in the present, and possibly even the souls of the future, and use the energy from those souls to acquire different magical abilities. It's kind of a take on the psionic book that 3.5 used. Except there are far fewer points to use. You still have power points to use. They're called Essentia. And I looked at them, and they look like they're roughly 10% of what the power point levels were for the psionics abilities. So they narrowed it down so you had fewer points to use. And you can only use a few points for each power you have to boost them. I think the range is like 1 to 5 points. But essentially, you take a power, you get so many powers depending on which class you have and what level you are. And you take that power, and then you can use it temporarily by saying, okay, I activate this ability. And you assign them to different parts of your body. Like the brow for eye things, the crown for head, thought things, the throat for a different kind of thing, arms and hands for different kinds of options. The different parts of your body, the heart, things like that. Different parts of your body can have different powers attached to them, and depending on which class you are. Now, you can use them temporarily, so you could have 3 different abilities that all attach to the crown. And you use them for that until you swap them out. Or you can bind them to that part. You're saying, okay, I want this power to be there for long term. And that means you get more benefits out of it because you're now assigned to that part of your soul or whatever, and you can't swap them out easily that way. You have to unbind it and things like that. And you can pump more points into it, again, upping its ability. Lots of them, for example, are like skill-based. Like you get +4 to something if you have this ability attached to this part of your body, and you pump more points into it, you get more bonuses, or it grants you an ability like a bite or a claw attack, and you pump more points into it, and you do better damage, or you're better to hit, things like that. And the book has 3 races that are all based upon this. They're in tune with the spiritual soul elements, and that's fine, I guess. It's, again, taking the model from the Psionics book. And it has some classes that deal with this. And 2 of the classes are really alignment-oriented, which bothers me, because while I like alignment systems in D&D, I don't like alignment limitations. They bother me a lot. So having reread these classes, I'm like, wow, I would never ever use these. And then there was one that was kind of had that absorb the nature animal spirit kind of thing, so it had a druid vibe, and I kind of like that idea. However, all these different cool ideas, and the list of powers is extensive. I'm still rereading it because it has some good ideas. Is extensive. I mean, it's a long list of abilities you could use. All different parts of your body, and different classes of these 3 classes they present you have different abilities, and like certain classes are going to use certain powers, that kind of thing. And again, it very much read like a different take on the Psionics book, but a different take that I didn't like as much. And it finally dawned on me why. I don't want these abilities tied to these classes, and these classes are the only ones that can use them. I don't want these races being the only ones that have a boost for this. I want all of these abilities to be able to be used by every race and every class. I want these abilities to be a replacement for magic items. That you bind these powers to your body so the character absorbs magical abilities and does not have to carry around the trinkets that contain those magical abilities. And I feel that every class and every race should be able to do this. It should not be limited to this, because it's like saying, okay, if you want to take this feat chain, you have to play this particular race or class to get this feat chain. And I don't like that idea. I'm opposed to racial feat chains. I'm opposed to racial classes. They've always bothered me. And this entire book is built around that concept. When I think if you were to free the idea of Incarnum from the shackles it has been given and say it can be used by anyone on any class to replace magic items, you've got a really cool thing. You've got the basis for all kinds of wushu powers. You have a lot of things in this would soup up monks in a really cool way. And to do this, I would probably have it feat-based, because everything's feat-based in, the D20 SRD. Even though spending feats is again, they're precious. Even in Pathfinder, they're precious, in my opinion. But have a feat that says, okay, if you want, you have to have a magic item creation feat. You have to have a minimum skill in spellcraft. Then you take this feat, and then allow you to take a magical ability from the core book, or a power from the this book. You could find a medium ground how you want to juggle this. A lot of these powers are really appropriate, and a lot of magical abilities for magic items aren't appropriate. I can't imagine anyone's going to want to have a permanent fine mineral wand ability attached to their body. And I don't think you want to be emulating some of the abilities. For example, wouldn't allow magic spells to be built into someone, because I think that crowds out the spellcasters. But having a magic ability that takes the place of armor, cool. Or a magic ability that gives you a different kind of sense, dark vision, scent, extra hearing, cool. Augmenting the character in a way that makes them better at their class, not one that cuts into the fun time of another class. So this would be an augmentation. We already have magic items that are tailored to different classes, that are best suited to different peoples. So I don't have a problem with the person having a magical ability that replaces that magic item. I'd have it cost the same, so you wouldn't be cheating. You'd have to have the same kind of components and magical stuff like that. And I wouldn't necessarily have the person who's getting the power have to sit there for a week. You'd have to do some rituals, and then at the end, you have the person there. You cast a thing, you roll your skill check, and if it succeeds, the person now has this ability. And of course, it would still suffer from being anti-magic fields and things like that. Or you have some of the abilities that you have a percent chance, or you roll on something to see if they'll work in an anti-magic field. A number of the psionic abilities work like that. You can attempt to use your soul knife in an anti-magic field. There's some chance you have of it succeeding. So that same model, I think, would work here for the Incarnum. I think that is a much better way of implementing this. I think the book is still useful. It would take a huge amount of work to get it to function. You could kit bash it, I think, on the fly if you wanted. And there are people who would love the idea of having the magic abilities built into their character, but there should be some kind of visual effect. There should be something on that person that shows they have this ability, in my opinion. Just as if you're wearing really spiffy armor, everyone can see you're wearing really spiffy armor. You can't hide the fact that you're wearing really spiffy armor. If you have on some kind of, magic crown on your head, it's obvious you're wearing a magic crown. So an ability that grants you some kind of a magical boost to your mental stats should have some kind of effect. Maybe a little halo or something. I don't know. You could figure it, a little flame on your skull, something like that. Yeah, I'd be able to have hair. I like that idea much better than the way it was implemented in the book. To me, they took a great idea and they shackled it to a game mechanic that I didn't think it needed. It emulated the worst aspects of the psionic system, in my opinion. Not that there are really bad psionic aspects to it. I don't think it's horrible. I really love the thing. But it's like they took all the things out that made it really cool and tied it to the concept that these 3 or something classes have to be the only ones that can use this ability, and and you have to have a character built around just these feats and these abilities and these powers. And I think these powers would augment the regular classes so much better. It would make it so much cooler. And that's kind of the point, isn't it? Having fun. So again, I haven't worked any mechanics out at all. The feat idea I came up with, I did on the fly. But I think that using the Magic of Incarnum as an augmentation to the standard classes and races of the game is a much better model than having them narrowed down and focused on just these races and just these classes as being dedicated and an ability to use Incarnum. I don't like that model. So, I would be interested in hearing what people have to say about Magic of Incarnum. I know it wasn't a very popular book. A lot of people probably don't even know it exists. And again, I did a very rough overview of it. I did not get into any details, things like that, because that wasn't my intention here. But I would be interested in hearing what you think about using Magic of Incarnum in a different way than it was originally intended.